Astrology is useful to understand cosmology. Now, there are two ways I can talk about that. One is that I've borrowed pieces of astrology, for example, to make the vocabulary of the Rosetta Stone in the geometry of meaning. In fact, if I really go back, it was astrology that made me realize the full significance of the derivatives. Because the third derivative had to conform to what in astrology would be Capricorn or control. It's perfectly obvious now, but I only saw it by virtue of astrology. That Capricorn or control came where the third derivative would be. Likewise, the four elements, recognizing the four elements as applied to the derivatives, and hence creating the whole Rosetta Stone.
Okay.
Now that's just drawing on the vocabulary of astrology. Another way is to see the nature of the different stages, what I call powers. I got the basic idea of the powers from the planets, moving from Pluto inward. I put Mars and Venus together because they make a pair.
So this is describing how astrology has been useful to you in constructing your cosmology.
Right.
How would astrology be useful to most people who aren't constructing cosmologies?
Astrology provides a more general foundation for looking at life than science does. And it gives it in a formal way. I mean, you could just draw words out of the air or out of the dictionary, but they're not related to one another. You have to define those words. But astrology, the whole thing comes together as a systematic way of deriving the meanings and applying them to the life situation. Well, see, the other way is the table of houses, which creates a whole matrix of looking at things in terms of your relation to others. Your relation to your partner is different from your relation to your boss. Your relation to your both is different from your relation to small things you can control.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are a sort of ancient wisdom that can throw light on modern, not just on modern problems, but on the whole modern mindset, which is very unbalanced. Well, I tried to make the geometry of meaning as general as possible. Long ago there was a book called The Meaning of Meaning, and I never could get much out of it, but it got a lot of attention, this book on the meaning of meaning. It didn't seem to me to really be helpful. But when I could see that you could use angles to describe meaning, and there was a long tradition of this, I only mentioned part of it in the geometry of meaning. The Egyptians said all meaning was an angle. And I remember soon after I sort of discovered this, I went to a party on Egyptian archaeology, and first I met a professor of an Egyptian professor, and I asked him about this expression. He said, yes, that was an old Egyptian expression, all meaning is an angle. Well, at this same party, my dinner partner was the wife of a Philadelphia friend. She herself was an Egyptian. And I asked her if she'd ever heard the expression, all meaning is an angle. She said yes, her Coptic priests had tutors. These Coptic priests who were her tutors had told her that. And I thought, now I'll get some more. What else did they tell you? Well, that was all, she said. So I didn't get much more out of it. But in any case, I soon had the basis for a way of describing the meaning of words. And I think that one of the reasons that people take to astrology so easily is something resonates. They look up and see that they're a Gemini, and that fits with one of their characteristics.
Would you say that astrology is similar to science in that they're both relational systems?
Yes, that's, you asked more than you realized there, because the relational system of science is almost entirely restricted, it is entirely restricted to relations of the object to itself, the definition of the object. It has to be separate from a person reacting with that object.
Though frequently science deals with the relationship of an object to a standard.
Yes, but a standard is also objective, so
Right.
parts of the object or other things in the field, like the relation between, let's say Chicago is between San Francisco and New York. That's a relationship statement. It gets way outside of Chicago, but it's all on the map.
Right.
You couldn't put yourself on the map except temporarily. You say, right now I'm here, but it wouldn't apply in general. But that's another aspect of the relational information you need. You can't use a map unless you know where you are on it. Now that's one of the difficulties with science, that where do I come in is not mentioned in the catalog of the science. Likewise, it doesn't matter to science which way the map's turned. They're quite proud of themselves for making it independent of orientation. But if you were out lost on the desert and you didn't regard the orientation of the map, which you'd have to do with a compass, you'd be just as the map would be useless.
Right.